Thank you for taking your time out of your day to join us and learning how you can empower your plate. My name is Peyton, this is Alyssa and Jacob, and in this presentation, we will walk through our guide to intuitive eating and give you all some helpful tips to make this a sustainable practice in your lives.
So at the end of this presentation, our goal is for you all to be able to explain what intuitive eating is, understand how to implement intuitive eating into your lifestyle, and adapt your food preferences to leave you feeling satisfied. Before we start getting into our presentation, we want to ask a couple questions to facilitate some conversation and self-reflection. Take a minute to think of what food or foods that you eat and consider to be a guilty pleasure. Now think of the reason why you consider that food to be guilty. When you think of these foods in your life, I will share an example of a food that I considered my guilty pleasure before I learned about what we're going to cover in this presentation. For me, I love a good warm chocolate chip cookie, and I would be so sad if I had to cut this out of my diet. If you feel comfortable sharing, please type your response in the anonymous message chat. Keep your guilty pleasure in mind as we go through this presentation. We will talk about it again, and if you feel comfortable sharing, we will have time at the end of the presentation for discussion.
Now let's go into what intuitive eating is. Dr. Albers defines intuitive eating as the polar opposite of dieting. He said that instead of following rules and restrictions, restricting what you eat, you trust your internal hunger, fullness, and satiety cues to help you decide what and how much you eat. He puts emphasis on the idea that no food is off the table.
Like Dr. Albers says, intuitive eating is an evidence-based, non-dieting approach to changing your eating habits. It's also about trusting your body to make food choices that feel good for you. We are born with the innate ability to know when we need to stop eating. Intuitive eating is about rediscovering this innate ability. So there are 10 total principles of intuitive eating, and we've kind of grouped those into 6 different sections today. The first principle is to reject diet mentality and challenge the food police. This is typically what we refer to when we're talking about judgment that we place on ourselves based on the influence of diet culture. The next is the ability to honor your hunger and feel your fullness. This is associated with the body's biological ability to feel hunger and satiety cues. This principle relies on rebuilding trust with yourself and in the foods that you're eating. The third principle is to respect your body and discover satisfaction. Diet culture places unrealistic and overly critical expectations on your body and diet, but the reality is that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Next is the ability to cope with your emotions and kindness. It comes with recognizing triggers and finding comfort in coping with healthy mechanisms instead of emotional eating. Then moving to the ability to honor your health and make peace with food is essential in intuitive eating. Making food choices that make you feel good, both mentally and physically, will help lead you to food freedom and true peace with food. Lastly, movement while eating intuitively feels better. Focusing on ways that your body likes to move rather than choosing exercise because it burns the most calories. This will leave you feeling more satisfied and confident in your body.
There are numerous benefits to intuitive eating involving both mental and physical health. In terms of mental health, intuitive eating has been shown to reduce anxiety, depression, and disordered eating thoughts and behaviors. Dieting has been identified as a risk factor for depression and disordered eating, and this has been linked to something called the restraint theory. This theory suggests that dieting decreases sensitivity to hunger cues and increases reliance on external cues that may lead to overeating and weight gain. This can spiral into low self-esteem and depression. Intuitive eating combats this issue by rejecting diet culture, focusing on recognizing the body's hunger cues, and embracing food freedom. In terms of physical health, intuitive eating has been shown to improve cholesterol levels with a reduction in LDL and increase in HDL levels, lower weight status and BMI, improve body satisfaction, lower blood pressure, and reduce inflammation. Intuitive eating helps you to reach your ideal body weight for your body. Whether you lose or gain weight depends on what your body's natural body weight wants to be at, and if you have a history of food restriction. Choosing foods that truly satisfy you and make your body feel good is the key to intuitive eating. The benefits will follow once you establish intuitive eating as a habit.
Here is a simplistic visual of how intuitive eating can help satisfy your mind and body for overall well-being. Choosing foods that are nutrient dense is suitable for your body, but at times it may not be what you are truly desiring. Combining these nutrient dense foods with what your mind is craving, challenging diet culture, and promoting full satisfaction after eating. One important thing to remember about intuitive eating is there are no rules. There is not a right or a wrong way to eat. If you decide you want to eat a salad because it sounds good, but halfway through you start feeling like it isn't what you want, it's okay to change your mind. It takes practice to truly know what your needs are, and trial and error is completely expected and okay.
Okay, so one of the primary focuses of intuitive eating is the idea that all food fits. With a diet mentality, people tend to focus on what foods they should be removing from their diet, and this can lead to disordered eating habits like overindulging or strict avoidance of certain foods. An example of this would be like going to a party and not eating a burger because you don't think it fits into your diet, but then going home feeling really hungry, and then overeating to the point where you feel sick. With intuitive eating mentality, we focus on foods that we like to eat and how we can add more nutrients to them to make them completely satisfying. With this thought pattern, we're able to enjoy all foods that we want in a more intentional way. With this mentality, each bite has purpose because we're choosing to eat the burger at the party since you're hungry and it sounds good. After the party, you might go home feeling satisfied, and a few hours later, you're feeling a little bit hungry, so you have a bedtime snack to leave you feeling fully satisfied before bed. This way of eating helps you not only feel your best physically, but also is great for our minds. We let ourselves have the joy that comes with consuming our favorite foods without the guilt, because all food fits, since all food is fuel.
So how can an RDN help you start your journey to intuitive eating? First, you should research RDs in your area that specialize in intuitive eating. Many dietitians believe in the all foods fit theory, but finding a dietitian specializing specifically in intuitive eating will be most beneficial if you want to be an expert in intuitive eating. The next step is to make an appointment and prepare for the visit. Some preparations we suggest for this type of appointment include reflecting on your current relationship with food, your current eating patterns, and any goals or challenges you would like to address with your dietitian. The initial appointment will help you explore your goals, motivations for seeking out intuitive eating approach. So it may be beneficial to consider these reasons before the appointment starts. After you start meeting with your dietitian on a regular basis, you may experience a wide range of emotions and various ups and downs throughout your journey. Your RD is there to help you stay on track and is there to support you along the way. Remember to celebrate any milestones, small or large. All progress is important. So we have learned about what intuitive eating is, the benefits of intuitive eating, and how to get in touch with an RD to begin your journey. But how do you actually become intuitive about your hunger? There's various ways to sense hunger in your body, whether that be emotional or physical cues. We'll go over these cues and strategies to become successful at recognizing hunger.
Starting with emotional cues to hunger, these include a quiet stomach, a sudden onset of desire for food, sudden cravings for specific food or flavor, and guilt associated with eating. First off, a quiet stomach refers to a stomach that is empty, which can trigger emotional responses before a physical cue occurs. Some of these emotional responses that may occur with a quiet stomach include restlessness, irritability, or thoughts about food. A sudden desire for food may occur when due to emotions such as stress or anger, or it may occur with a visual cue like seeing a food commercial or an advertisement. Another one would be craving for food such as sweet, salty, crunchy, or creamy, and are considered an emotional hunger cue because they often stem from emotional or psychological factors. Some of these factors include memories that are associated with a certain flavor of food, stress, sadness, and or a habitual factor of behavior and routine leading to the activation of the brain's reward pathway. And finally, guilty eating is another sign that we are leaning on our emotions to tell us about how we eat, when we should, or when we allow shoulds and coulds to make these food choices. We lead ourselves into stressful eating. All of these factors are important to be aware of when being able to recognize emotional hunger cues. Physical cues for hunger are a little more simple to identify because our body is trying to tell us that we are starting to run out of energy. This includes feelings of fatigue or lightheadedness, irritability, sometimes referred to as hangry, headaches, the obvious stomach rumbling that can intensify over time, and the idea that any food will satisfy rather than craving one specific type of food.
All right, so now that we know the physical and emotional cues for hunger, how do we recognize these? The first strategy is to acknowledge our hunger, and this strategy is where we recognize physical hunger cues and respond to them rather than just ignoring them. This involves recognizing what true hunger feels like, not hunger from external stimuli, like the time of the day or if others are eating around us. It's important to have snacks handy to be able to respond to hunger when it's least expected. Allowing hunger to build can lead to binge eating and irritability. The next strategy is to recognize and respond to fullness. This strategy is centered on the idea of true hunger, but unlike the first strategy, this one is focusing on realizing that hunger is, realizing when the hunger is gone. To do this, you have to identify a comfortable degree of fullness after eating and respond to what our body is telling us. Eating a bit slower and taking pauses to assess how your body is feeling is a great place to start. Next is to not fear negative feelings. This includes learning how to cope with emotions like stress, boredom, and anger without using food. This is a great strategy for navigating emotional hunger cues. There are a few ways to cope with the negative emotions that are bound to occur. These could include meditation, going on a walk, talking with a friend, or even taking a shower. It's important to not let these feelings discourage you and recognize that you can overcome them. Lastly, learning to honor and respect your body regardless of its size and ability is essential. Nurturing a positive self-image can help lead to healthful behaviors. Intuitive eating is all about health at every size and takes a weight-neutral approach to eating. It's important to recognize that our body has a weight that it functions best at and to accept this.
A helpful tool to use with intuitive eating is the hunger fullness scale. Using this scale, we are able to put a number to our hunger, which can be helpful when it comes to incorporating mindfulness into our eating habits. Starting on the left side, a 1 on this scale would indicate that you are ravenous or starving and would include feeling weak, dizzy, or even nauseous. Moving on to number 2, which is uncomfortably hungry, this rating is typically associated with feelings of irritability and low energy. A 3 may mean that you're very hungry, which is a hard ranking to miss because this is when our stomach begins to growl and is common right before meals. A 4 would mean that you're a bit hungry and could probably eat something, but it's not your biggest priority right now. In this level of hunger, we're typically thinking about food, but we aren't really acting on ways to get food. A 5 is neutral. We are kind of just in the middle, meaning we aren't feeling hungry or full. Moving towards the fullness side of the scale, a 6 would represent that you are slightly full, feeling light and satisfied. A 7 is feeling full and can be slightly uncomfortable. An 8 means that you are feeling very full and cannot eat anymore. A 9 is feeling very uncomfortable and associated with the urge to unbutton your pants or wish that you were wearing stretchy pants. Finally, a 10 would be painfully full and you may feel like you're sick.
Now that we know what intuitive eating is and how to recognize hunger cues, let's look at what it actually looks like to eat intuitively. Now, intuitive eating does not label foods as healthy and unhealthy. Using the term guilty pleasure is one we're all familiar with, and we want to steer away from this diet word. But since we are all familiar with the word, we can use it to learn how to gradually become more neutral about all foods and truly challenge diet talk. One aspect of intuitive eating involves enhancing your guilty pleasure or cravings with nutrient-dense complementary foods. This may look like adding extra fruit, veggies, protein, or fiber to those foods. The goal of adding a nutrient-dense food is to enhance satiety and promote overall well-being throughout the body. It is crucial that you listen to your body's needs and cravings. Ignoring cravings is what leads to overeating and dissatisfaction overall. It takes a lot of practice to recognize your body's true needs, listening to both emotional and physical cues. By adding in fruits and veggies, we can get more natural vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, etc. Proteins can help us feel satiated longer and provide essential amino acids to the body. And fiber works with our body to help us feel more satiated and is associated with healthy gut microbiome.
All right, so for an example, let's say you just had dinner and you're wanting a sweet treat. Your mind may be craving a warm chocolate chip cookie, so you go ahead and make a batch. Right as they're getting out of the oven, you prepare a bowl with some Greek yogurt for some added protein and creaminess, plus some raspberries for extra nutrients and zest. You then crumble the cookie on top for a perfect sweet treat that contains carbs, proteins, fats, and fruit. You eat this and you feel satisfied in both your mind and your body. One thing to note here is that with intuitive eating, you definitely do not need to add fruits and yogurt to your cookies. But if your body's not wanting this or it does not sound appealing to you, you don't need to add those extra nutrients. Intuitive eating is, it has no rules, and it's all about listening to what your body is needing. This is just one example of a way that you can round out your cravings to leave you feeling more satisfied.
We know life gets busy. By utilizing ingredient prep, you can eat intuitively, even with a busy schedule. Ingredient prep is all about prepping bits and pieces that can be used to make multiple different meals, like getting puzzle pieces that can work for multiple puzzles. An example could be prepping pre-cooked, pre-portioned chicken that could be used for a taco, a salad, or even just eating it over some rice. When we ingredient prep, we can make different meals rather than meal prepping the same meal that we're going to eat for days, giving us the freedom to eat a meal we may want tomorrow, instead of being reluctant to eat the meal we already made, giving us the opportunity to walk down many paths rather than the one single path with meal prepping. However, success can be found in multiple ways, so meal prepping may work fine for just someone else.
Here is a simple visual of how to visualize a way to eat intuitively for your entire body. You first determine what your mind is craving. You can recall this by figuring out what you can't stop thinking about. Sometimes you aren't craving something in particular, and you just have to figure out some options and what sounds best in the moment. Next, you figure out what your body is needing. Is there a way to add nutrients, or is this something you even want to do? Listening to your body can be a much trickier skill in intuitive eating, and there is no right way to do it. Finally, after you finish the meal, reflect on how you feel from this meal. Do you feel like you need more? Do you feel like you listen to your fullness cues? How are you feeling overall about this meal? So let's do some practice. Which of these options best represents intuitive eating? A, eating a salad because that's the healthiest. B, eating a salad and pizza because I need to be healthy if I eat pizza. C, eating a salad and pizza because it sounds yummy. If you feel comfortable, please unmute or type in the chat what you think the answer is.
C.
Perfect. So the correct answer is C, eating a salad and pizza because it sounds yummy. All foods fit. If you just want to eat a salad or pizza, you can just have one. Foods are not labeled as healthy and unhealthy when it comes to intuitive eating.
All right, so the next question is this an example of intuitive eating? Joe is enjoying a salad. Halfway through eating, he decides that he wants a sandwich too. He makes a sandwich and continues his meal. And then also, if you feel comfortable, you can unmute or just type in the chat.
Yes.
Yeah, the correct answer is yes here. So there are no rules to intuitive eating, and you can change your mind halfway through a meal. You can be completely finished with a meal and decide you need more in order to feel completely satisfied.
All right, last question. What is incorrect about this thought? I have been so good today. I have eaten just a salad for lunch. I can't wait to go home and eat cookies and ice cream. You are not good or bad based on how you're eating. Eating is not something you have to earn. This person shouldn't eat a cookie and ice cream, and this thought is completely fine. You also, you know the drill. Feel free to talk about it with unmuting or just put it in the chat.
Hey,
Yeah, you are not good or bad based on how you eat. Eating is something you don't have to earn.
Okay, for our last activity, take some time to think about how you can enhance the guilty pleasure you came up with at the start of the presentation. Think about how you can add some nutrients to leave you feeling satisfied in your mind and your body's cravings. As you're thinking of this, we can share an example of something we've been craving recently and how we add things to the meal to promote our body's needs. We've all been craving pizza recently, so of course we acted on this craving. We went to Hall's Pizza Kitchen here in OKC and ordered a pizza to share, but we ordered a salad to split as well. The salad sounded good to all of us and accompanied the pizza well, so we all left the restaurant very happy. We would love to hear how you adjusted your food choice. If you feel comfortable, please unmute and share, or you can type this in the chat. So I like what Laura said about eating mindfully. Mindfulness is a big part of intuitive eating. Just assessing how you feel after the meal, or even taking breaks while you're eating to assess how you're feeling and if this is really what you are wanting. So that's a great suggestion. Pizza with a salad or heavily loaded with veggies and no meat. I do like this idea. Adding a lot of veggies to your meals can provide a lot of extra vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. You guys want to do something?
I love the smaller portions. I love the idea of main course and get dessert and share it. Sharing dessert is also just a good time to just be with people and enjoy that personable experience. Oh yeah, for going for frozen Greek yogurt instead of just like ice cream, especially if your body wants that, and just kind of going that direction is something that is also part of being mindful and being intuitive about what you want and what might be balancing the want something sweet or something that sounds fun and also something that's nutrient dense.
I really like how Susan brought up how eating a sweet closer to the end of your meal has less of a spike in insulin. I like how you're reflecting on like your personal needs with the insulin. So that's really good. Okay, we will move on. Thank you so much for all of your answers.
All right, so in summary, today we discussed the 10 principles of intuitive eating and how each principle helps us become more intuitive about our eating. We also discussed the mental and physical benefits of eating intuitively and how a dietitian can be a part of your intuitive eating journey. We also shared how to recognize hunger cues both mentally and physically, while offering some strategies on how to better understand true hunger cues. Finally, we expressed how ingredient preparation can work hand in hand to make mealtime a more intuitive process. So with that, do you guys have any questions for us about what we discovered or what we talked about today?
And while we allow people a little bit of time to put any questions they might have in the chat, yeah, I really appreciate you kind of walking us through this different way of thinking about how we eat in a road that we can take that, you know, it's not always a one size fits all. And so this is a great approach of just kind of introducing us on different ways that we can approach eating, healthy eating, and really appreciate the examples that you had. And someone did comment, a lot of thank yous, of course, in the chat. Someone said, I'm never hungry for breakfast, but I know it's not a meal you should skip. But if we take this intuitive eating approach, what are y'all's takes whenever if it's, you know, in the morning, someone doesn't necessarily feel hungry when it's breakfast time? Should we still kind of have something to eat or just maybe wait a little bit longer? When it comes to intuitive eating, what's the approach here?
So I also kind of feel this way, most mornings where I'm not feeling hungry for breakfast, but I usually just have like, I bring snacks with me or even like a granola bar that I can eat on the way to driving to school. So that when I do feel those, hunger cues come up, I can act on those right away.
Excellent. And another, a family member is pre-diabetic and manages her blood sugar with food. Could she use the intuitive eating method?
Ooh, that's so good. I feel like that's really hard to eat intuitively while having to like follow a strict like medical schedule and being like, oh, I need this insulin now. Or do you say it was type 1 or type 2? Or does it say is this pre-diabetic?
Type 2.
Type 2, yeah. So at that point it's harder to, or it's not as stringent of a schedule. You can totally eat intuitively while being pre-diabetic. Just kind of understanding the needs of what being pre-diabetic has going for it and still just kind of following what your hunger says. I feel like your body will tell you a lot, even if you're having all of those complications.
I also think that if you are having you're pre-diabetic and you're wanting to do this method, finding a RD that is specializing in intuitive eating is really important, and also working with your physician with your RD as a combination, like not doing it on your own will be really helpful, but it's definitely possible.
Yes, great strategies there. Thank you. And then how to include intuitive eating when one works 8 to 5 and may not want to eat breakfast or lunch at the normal time.
I think this is kind of a big part of intuitive eating because if you're not wanting to eat at those times that maybe people around you are eating at, it's intuitive eating allows you to eat when you're feeling hungry. So if you aren't feeling hungry at noon where all of your like coworkers are eating lunch, you can eat at 2 when you start to feel hungry. So it's kind of cool with intuitive eating. You're able to kind of make your own schedule of what's normal for you.
I can add to that because I do that. I don't eat lunch really at school. When everybody goes and gets lunch, I just kind of have a snack and then don't really think about it because I'm not really hungry at lunch when I'm here. So I always eat when I get home, and that's just kind of when I'm hungry. So it's kind of just when I've decided to eat, whether that's 2, 3, 4, or 5. Whenever I get home, it's like, all right, now I can eat.
I think also what Jacob is touching on is a little bit of practical eating.
Yeah.
It's something that is a part of intuitive eating that you could learn more from an RD that specializes in it. So he's saying how he eats a snack so it can hold him over until he's actually feeling hungry enough to eat lunch and a full meal.
Excellent, great points. And would you talk a little bit about separating emotional eating with intuitive eating?
Yeah, for most of our, a lot of people eat emotionally based on what they want or what they are desiring. If you're like a food person or somebody who loves food, and eating to help your emotional state is kind of more the emotional side rather than eating on your hunger, which is more of like, oh, I need food, and there's more reasons and more logical reasons as well for why you want that rather than just based off true emotions.
I also think that emotional eating has kind of had a negative connotation
Agreed.
before, but I don't think it has to necessarily be negative. If you look at it, I mean, food does evoke a lot of emotions. It can bring like nostalgia and all of that. And that's how like listening to your cravings and what you would like is important. And I do think there's emotions involved in that. The difference is sometimes emotional eating can be a stress response and can lead to binge eating and overeating. And that is something we want to minimize and really dial into your hunger and fullness by using the hunger fullness scale and just really just focusing on what your body is needing and being careful to not overconsume and make yourself sick.
I 100%, it's like 100% agree. It's definitely a balance of both physical and emotional cues, and just understanding the idea of true hunger is that like the balance of the two coming together.
Mhm. Right.
All right. Are there any more questions for us?
Yeah, I think you guys have done a great job covering all the questions that I've seen come through here. So really appreciate it. Great information, some great takeaways here for us to start putting into practice today, this evening, if we'd like to, and how to just like improve and meet our goals with our healthy eating. So really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.